Alright, so no one talks about it, but in fact, Putin loves sanctions. For him, being sanctioned or not, it does not matter. For him, it's a win-win situation. And today, I'll explain you why. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. But first of all, what is the purpose of sanctions? And I think the very basic explanation I can give, this is the response of a civilized world to an unacceptable action by an aggressor country. In the past, in response to such wrongdoings, countries were just declaring wars on each other, or at least there was some kind of a combat activity. But nowadays, when, rightfully so, violence becomes less and less socially acceptable, countries just simply started imposing sanctions on each other. And the hopes here is to target the economy and the decision-making people instead of this regular people and the everyday life itself. And hopefully, if sanctions are strong enough, this might force the aggressor country to reverse its unacceptable decisions. Okay, so just for a second, imagine a teenager who is failing at school, and the parents will most likely not hit their kid for this, right? Most likely what's gonna happen is that they will take the phone away or limit PlayStation time until hopefully the kid realizes the problem and starts working towards solving it. And if the good grades are back in the hopefully near future, the parents might return the cell phone and PlayStation privileges. And so, as you can see, sanctions in the modern century are basically the response of the modern world to a country aggressor without actually using the force, but instead it's just like a punishment on a country-wide scale. And so, the main question here is it even possible to want your country to be sanctioned, to be strangled so much with the restrictions that your country becomes slowly isolated from the rest of the world? And well, the majority of country leaders and sane politicians will obviously say no. But there is nothing sane if you're in power for more than 20 years. Power in this case is like a drug. No, it's even stronger than a drug. It is only available to a selected few, and it unlocks such possibilities regular people can only dream about. And the longer you live inside this world, the harder it is to take you out of it. Especially in the case of Putin, it is practically impossible. That is why sometimes crazy decisions are made, because these people think that there are literally no consequences to their actions. Putin has been in power for so long, just some mere sanctions, they just no longer scare him. And in fact, and you will only understand this if you know the Soviet Russian mentality. In fact, Putin loves sanctions, he welcomes them, he adores them. This is literally the best gift from the West to him, and no one talks about it. But you don't need to have been born in Soviet Russia to understand this, because right now I'll tell you exactly why. But first of all, if you like these special episodes in addition to my regular daily news updates, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much, and let's continue. How does it even make sense that Putin loves sanctions? Doesn't he want his beloved country to be prosperous, influential and a respected #1 country in the world? And the answer is no, not at all. He absolutely does not care about this. At this point in his political career, all he cares about is how to remain in power for as long as possible and continue being the most influential person inside Russia itself. He does not care about what people in, for example, Italy, or at this point any country in the world think about him. All he cares about what people of Russia think about him and about their unconditional loyalty, preferably the vast majority of them. And this will be way more than enough to stay in power for as long as he wants. If your people are loyal, if they support every decision you make, if they see you as their protector and provider, at this point you can almost get away with practically everything. And so, how do you achieve this? Well, long story short, you limit access to everything non-Russian. You prohibit certain books, movies, songs. You make it so hard to access the information from the abroad and just in general. You control the audio and visual consumption of your society. But here is the problem. If you take this freedom of choice by yourself, people will most likely or even obviously will not like it. So, what's the solution? Well, take it away anyways, but make it look like it was the enemy from the abroad who did it. And then launch strong 24/7 propaganda. That was these Americans and Europeans who took your freedom of choice. But so what? We have our own movies, books and groceries, and they're 100 times better. And so, what's the result? Well, it's the same. You took the ability of people to choose things they want, but instead of protests, you get the unconditional support and unacceptance of your people to everything non-Russian. Sounds like a win-win to you, right? But wait, there is more. Quite often, sanctions also target just the regular people, at least indirectly, such as for example their ability to travel and get visas. And whenever other countries put such restrictions against regular Russians, it is just a piece of cake for Putin to prove how evil the West is. They basically did all the work for him. But in addition to that, it closes and isolates the country even more. And with, once again, 24/7 propaganda, eventually, sooner or later, more and more Russians start disliking the West, or at least being pretty skeptical about it. The result of all this? Way easier control over people, more support, more loyalty, or at least more neutrality, and the I don't care, let them do what they want kind of attitude. All this, once again, only keeps Putin longer and longer in power, and allows him to get away with sometimes generally unacceptable, unpopular decisions. But what about Putin himself, his inner circle, and just the government of Russia itself? Don't they want to travel and see the world? Well, when was the last time you saw Putin or Medvedev skiing in Switzerland or doing a beach day in Italy? Major Russian politicians, they simply do not care about going abroad. They are fine just at home. They're millionaires, billionaires, they have the power, and one of their friends is Putin himself. What else do they need in life? I mean, yeah, maybe some of them they do miss traveling, but as they usually say, there are just so many activities you can do inside Russia itself, it's just so big, and they couldn't care less about the West. And so, as a result, what do we have? Putin is in power for so long, the biggest priority for him right now is to remain in power no matter what, but it is the people of your country who allow you to do this. And if you somehow can turn them into the most loyal nation, they will let you rule over them for as long as you want. And how do you achieve this? First of all, create the artificial enemy, and second, limit people's access to everything non-Russian. And if you can combine these two, you basically kill two birds with one stone. And this is where propaganda comes into picture. And at the same time, propaganda will start telling the people that it was the West, the enemy, that took away people's freedom of choice, and on the other hand, it is the government that will always protect them and be on their side. Voila! Follow these simple steps and you can rule forever. But at what cost?